Hi, this is Christina with the Sisyphean Journal, and I'm going to look at some news coverage of the story about the aborted remains that Prolifers got hold of in D.C. I'm going to just click on one of these videos and we're going to watch it together. This is a news story from 8 days ago, and we're just going to look at the coverage and the events themselves. And I especially want to hear from pro-choice people, okay? Because a lot of pro-life people assume that as soon as somebody says they're pro-choice, that they're okay with everything that the abortion lobby supports. But my biggest drive is getting the pro-choice, ordinary pro-choice people to understand exactly what it is the abortion lobby favors, and the gap that I think there is between what your average pro-choice citizen wants happening and what the abortion lobby actually facilitates. So we're going to look at this story, and we're going to look at some of the comments. So let's go.
All right, WUSA 9 staying on top. Breaking news in Capitol Hill and the Eastern Market neighborhood. Listen to this. D.C. police confirmed that the medical examiner collected 5 fetuses from inside the home of an anti-abortion protester. Her name, Lauren Handy. Handy has just been indicted on a charge of invading and blocking access to a D.C. health clinic.
Okay, first of all, I find it very interesting that they bring up this irrelevant point that the woman had been involved in actually going into a clinic, and they called it invading. It was trespassing. There's a difference between trespassing and invading. They did not go in with guns and start shooting up the place. They trespassed. But notice that they bring up that irrelevant fact about her right away because they want to discredit her. They're being very careful to discredit the woman first thing.
Now, WUSA 9 broke this story. We were outside the home. Remember this yesterday on 6th Street Southeast when police were carrying out that raid. Officers walked out carrying red biohazard bags and coolers. That's never a good sight. WUSA 9's Bruce LeShan live there with more on some of the shocking revelations our team was able to uncover today. Bruce, good evening.
Yeah, Adam, I'm telling you what, kind of a bizarre, gruesome house of horrors here in a crowded D.C. neighborhood.
Okay, so it's a bizarre, gruesome house of horrors. Now, are they going to present this as that pro-lifer was bizarre and gruesome because she recovered those fetal remains? Or is it bizarre, gruesome, and horrible what was done to those unborn children to turn them into those mangled remains?
D.C. police say they found those 5 fetuses right down here in this apartment, which is connected to that anti-abortion activist, Lauren Handy. Police say the investigation is ongoing, which leaves us with a ton of questions. Like, where did the human fetuses come from? Why did she keep them? And what was she planning to do with them? Police...
Okay, if they didn't have the answers at that point, yeah, those are legitimate questions. Let's see if they cover those. Or whether they're just trying to paint her as ghoulish. Did they know at this point and they're just trying to paint her as ghoulish? Or did they not know yet?
Carried a cooler and several biohazard bags out of the home on Wednesday. Anti-abortion activist Lauren Handy, outside her home after her release on federal charges, told WUSA 9 people would freak out when they heard what police had found inside her home.
Abortion is the most painful type of murder, dismembering a child alive with no anesthetic.
Okay, abortion, it does dismember the unborn baby without any anesthetic. Now, they might, after the baby gets to be about 20 weeks, do what's called digging. That's short for digoxin. Harpooning the baby in the heart with a gigantic needle to inject digoxin, which is a cardiac drug, but an overdose will stop the heart. So sometimes they do stop the heart first, mainly because the baby's so big that it's too difficult to twist the pieces off. But, you know, that is how they do it. And Leroy Carhart, in his Supreme Court case, in the hearings for that, admitted that he'll see the heart beating on ultrasound even as he's pulling limbs off. So again, if you're pro-choice, are you okay with this? Do you look at that and go, absolutely, that is a right? And if so, what did those babies do to deserve it? I mean, seriously, what could any human being do that they deserve to die that way?
He was among 9 people indicted by a federal grand jury Wednesday.
And again, this is irrelevant to the case. What we're talking about is the babies. Unless she got them while she was there, this is irrelevant, and it's just brought up to try to make her look bad before they go further into the story.
For allegedly invading Washington Surgery Clinic on October 22nd, 2020.
If you die in the abortion procedure, you can wake up in a place you don't want to be.
The anti-abortion activists chained themselves to chairs in a waiting room.
I'm Jonathan Darnell.
And protester Jonathan Darnell of Arlington live streamed the whole thing to Facebook.
Again, what's the point? What does this have to do with any of this? Seriously. They're spending the bulk of the story trying to smear the woman and not talking about the actual story.
You would cry out in agony. Your mind would be twisted with pain if you could spend 1 minute in hell.
Handy, Darnell, and 7 others were charged under the 1994 Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, which...
What I find is really interesting is that federal law is being enforced, but the Born Alive Infant Protection Act, I don't know of a single case where they've actually used it to prosecute because nobody wants to touch it. And I don't know whether it's that they don't want to face the reality that sometimes these babies are born alive and either left to die or killed, or whether they want it happening and baby comes out alive, of course you strangle the little son of a bitch. I don't know. I don't know these people's minds. But I find it really interesting that the FACE law, we have to enforce that, but the Born Alive Infant Protection Act, you're not allowed to let a baby just die. Yeah.
Had fallen into disuse under the Trump administration. Planned Parenthood of Metropolitan Washington CEO says she knows several of the people indicted.
They have protested at our facility on 4th Street here in the district many times and have been disruptive. They have harassed patients. They have obstructed patients.
Okay, and I have to say that the siege mentality doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't. It feeds into the idea that the pro-lifers are a bunch of mean-spirited busybodies who just can't mind their own damn business. You need to focus on the fact that these abortion clinics don't give a happy shit about those women once the baby's dead. There's been cases where the women were literally shoved out the door to bleed to death. How much does she actually care about those patients? I don't know. But I can tell you the abortion lobby, once that baby's dead, the woman's off the table. She is a fetus container that needs to be cleaned out. She's not a human being with complex needs. And I can guarantee you, that's how the women are treated. They are fetus containers that need to be emptied. The pro-lifers get castigated for treating her like she's a complex human being with needs. What do you need? Do you need housing? Do you need childcare? Do you need medical care? Do you need an education? The pro-lifers are supposedly evil because they look at all those things and they treat the woman holistically. Take her money, scrape out the fetus, and send her on her way, perhaps even moribund from injuries you inflicted? No problem!
And no one should have to experience that intimidation for trying to access health care.
It's not health care, you dumb twathead. Sorry. It's not health care. Killing babies isn't health care, and they don't treat it like health care. They don't do proper informed consent. They don't even treat the woman like a normal patient. You see the crap that goes on in abortion clinics that people like her defend. They say that doctors shouldn't have to have admitting privileges when they're doing outpatient surgery when the surgery is abortion. That is not treating it like health care. You yourself, woman, you don't think abortion really is healthcare, because if you did, you would want the same standards for outpatient abortion clinics that we have for other outpatient surgery centers. And you don't, because clearly you don't see it as healthcare. You see it as other. Now, should the women be harassed? No. But on the other hand, they shouldn't be treated the way the clinic treats them either, which is as fetus containers that need to be emptied.
Washington surgery clinic declined to comment when we called them, so we really don't know whether the fetuses came from there or from someplace else. DC police are leading the investigation into the fetuses, and they say it's really ongoing, so we don't know if or when or what kind of charges might.
Okay, so notice that it's 3 minutes and 32 seconds into a 4-minute and 39-second video before they finally start getting back to the issue of the fetuses.
Filed in connection with those fetuses. A guy with keys to the house came up to us just a little bit over an hour ago, and he said there is going to be a news conference on Tuesday, and it's going to be big. But beyond that, he refused to say anything at all. Adam?
All of this, Bruce, is just extremely bizarre. And do we know anything about Handy's group being involved with human fetuses before?
Yay! They're at least talking about fetuses. Woohoo!
Yeah. This is interesting. Right at the top of their website, there's a big picture they say shows human fetuses being improperly stored at the University of Washington, at a health center or a medical school at the University of Washington. Fetuses, baby parts, they say, stored in plastic bags, paper bags, in a freezer. But again, we don't know if that has anything to do with what's going on here.
Funny how we don't know if the other fetuses have anything to do with the fetuses here, but they spent the bulk of this talking about illegal activities that the group's gotten in trouble for. So they aren't afraid to bring up things that aren't related, are they?
Yeah, very strange. So many things still need to be unraveled here. Bruce Chandler, of course, in the Capitol Hill neighborhood in D.C. Thanks, Bruce.
Okay.
WUSA 9 staying on top. Great.
Oops, hold on. So now let's look at some of the comments. I'm going to turn this back. Let's look at whether I'm the only person who's like, excuse me, could you cover the story? See. Okay, so you go, what the hell is wrong with these people? Again, what's wrong with the people who want the deaths to be investigated? Not what's wrong with these people that, again, you go below. I'm going to provide the link to the live action page where you can look at those pictures of those babies and you can tell me, is the big story here that somebody seized those remains and want the medical examiner to do autopsies, or is the problem that viable human fetuses were turned into those mangled remains? Go look and tell me. What's the problem here? Oh, and the one guy, a couple people don't understand if you died during the procedure, you could wake up in a horrible place. Okay, so they don't understand the concept of hell, obviously. And people fight against abortion, but don't give two shits what happens to the kid once it's born. Which, first of all, it's a total straw man argument, okay? It's irrelevant. Even if pro-lifers were nasty, mean people who stomped on puppies, that doesn't change whether what is done to the baby during the abortion is a good and right thing to do. And it doesn't change whether the way the women are treated is good or right. And supposedly these people who love women so much, and that's why they want abortion to be legal, why do they not give two shits about the woman once the fetus is dead? Why is it okay to shove her out the door and bleed to death? The same woman! It's okay if the woman dies as long as the baby's dead. Okay, you know, cast the stones at your own people, pro-choicers. Imagine they spend 1% of their time caring after what happens after the child is born. I find that so weird. I find it weird that you don't care about what happens to the woman after the abortion. So, they need DNA fetuses. So, yeah, everybody's just all, I can only imagine how the woman who used those clinics those fetuses came from must feel. I'm not sure whether, I don't know. So, Yeah, seriously, the comments are 90%. Why did the woman have these bodies and not why were these individuals killed? Now, I don't know. Again, I think, and you tell me, pro-choice people, are you really that clueless that you don't realize that abortions are done on healthy, viable babies? And you're like, well, she went in and she got something that looks like a pureed tumor and she's keeping it in her house. What's wrong with her? Okay, look at the pictures. Tell me what you think the problem is. That the woman got those bodies and kept them until she could, and I know from other news coverage, what happened is that a biohazard truck was coming to haul the box of fetuses off, and the pro-lifers said, do you realize that's aborted babies in there? We want to give them a decent burial. And the guy's like, I don't want anything to do with them. The pro-lifers buried the pre-viable fetuses. They gave them a dignified burial. And then the 5 that clearly were viable, they want the medical examiner to see if they were born alive and then killed or not. And of course, they also want to make a big splash with, look, yeah, this is what is perfectly legal to do. And if you want to stand with the placard saying, I'm pro-choice, you need to realize that this is what's going on behind your sign. And you need to look and you need to tell me, are you okay with this? Do you think the abortion lobby is right for wanting this to happen, for protecting this? We've got states pushing law after law after law. Maryland was trying to say you should just let it die after it's born, and that there should not even be an investigation into a neglect death for 28 days after the baby's born. Okay, who's the sickos here? Seriously, answer the question. So, thanks.